Okay, so our presentation is basically looking at Apple Incorporated and how they are creating this or causing this new form of addiction within specific populations in the United States, and if they have a moral obligation to address this issue and rectify it.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Board of Directors at Apple. My name is Sagar Sharma.
Emilio Hospitalis.
My name is Patrick Bauer.
And we are your ethical team. Today we want to bring up an acute issue that is plaguing our industry and our company as a whole, and that is cell phone addiction. But first, some background information. As of 2017, 223 million people in the United States owned a smartphone. Of that, 90 million people, or 40% of those users, are iPhone users. That makes Apple a leading provider, the leading provider of smartphones in the industry. What we want to touch on is the specific definition of addiction according to the American Association of Psychology. That acute definition is a complex condition of brain disease that is manifested by compulsive use despite harmful consequence. That is affecting society's most vulnerable, the youth.
Building off what my colleague Sagar said, the specific component of addiction that our product is contributing to the population is behavioral addiction. And behavioral addiction is clinically defined as an inability to resist an urge or drive to use or perform an act while it causing harm to the individual or others around them. And it is also classified by a feeling of tension or stress before performing the act, and then a feeling of gratification or relief after performing this act. And the way the smartphone is doing this is one of the ways the smartphone is doing this is through the way the notifications are received. And the way the notifications are received is known as something called as intermittent token reinforcement. And that basically means they come to you at random. And when this happens, it releases dopamine in your brain. And as a result, you have a sense of gratification. And this sense of gratification continues the cell phone usage, which leads to dependence. And the reason that this is a problem is because you have a population of consumers, which is adults and minors. And these minors have plasticity in their brain. Their brain, the human brain, is still developing through the age of 25. And before the brain is fully developed, it has enhanced plasticity. And the reason that the iPhone is problematic in this sense is because during this period of critical development, any behavior, any life event, anything that could be stressful leads to more harmful consequences down the line. In a US survey, 67% of the population that is most affected by addiction suffers all of these harmful consequences across the board. And this doesn't only relate to substance abuse, this also relates to behavioral addictions as well. And as a result, our company, Apple Inc., has a moral and ethical obligation to address this population that is being affected by this. And our solution will touch on some of the ways that we can maintain our integrity as a company, and it'll also discuss on how Apple could remain an innovator in the market while rectifying the problem that has contributed into the population.
As my colleague Emilio has clearly established, the smartphones that we are producing, as well as the rest of the industry, is affecting its consumers and causing undeniable harm. It is therefore Apple's responsibility to rectify this harm and correct the unfairness in the market, which is the consumers giving us their hard-earned money and we are returning them with a product that causes an addiction. The first part of our solution would be implementing batch notifications. This would address the issue of intermittent token reinforcement that Emilio discussed by having a set time of when these notifications will be coming in. We would default this at 1 hour. However, we do recognize that business people will want to be in constant contact with those important to the industry, so we will allow this to be customizable in the settings. Next, we recommend an alert system which will notify the user when they have been using their iPhone for an inappropriate amount of time. This is similar to how Netflix will ask, are you still watching after watching a number of episodes in a row? Okay. And our next solution would be a day of socializing. This is similar to Nickelodeon, a children's network's Day of Play, in that we encourage users to get off their screen, in Nickelodeon's case, a television screen, and in our case, an iPhone, and get outside and socialize with other people. This will be paired with a marketing campaign which will explain the unique notification that will appear on a set date in the summertime. Furthermore, we recommend an expansion of guidelines. Because the App Store market is so profitable, we know that app developers must comply in order to access our market of the App Store. This raises the issue of parentalism. Are we dictating what our consumers must do? And the solution to this is that all of these solutions are customizable within the settings. So if they want to access, or if they want to act autonomously without or an act against their well-being as they may prioritize other things such as work, as was mentioned, they can change this. Currently, users have been going through, or there has been a trend of users changing their colors and removing all colors so that there is only grayscale. This damages our brand and diminishes the design that Apple has become known for since the age of Steve Jobs. And next, we recognize that there is already a problem as stakeholders have addressed it and have brought it up in relation to Apple. Most recently, in January, 2 shareholders asked Apple what they are doing to address this issue of addiction in children, and while Apple has responded that they do care about their consumers, there's been no real change implemented. Furthermore, former designer of the iPod and iPhone has transitioned to careers to become an advocate, outspoken in recognizing tech addiction. Lastly, we have our own Chief Design Officer, Johnny Ive, who has stated that using your iPhone too much could be labeled as misuse.
Lastly, our CEO, Tim Cook, it looks like he was unfortunately unable to make it here today, but I want to read off a quote to you, Board of Directors, that he has said, and I think it would be important to state here for you today. Apple has always been different, a different kind of company with a different view of the world. It's a special place where we have the opportunity to create the best products on earth. Products that change lives and help shape the future. It's a privilege we as a company hold dear. If Apple is going to hold true to its integrity as a company that is defining this era, it is up to us to take the well-being of our consumers to heart. And if that means that we have to take these ethical and moral obligations and make the necessary changes for those to happen, that means we have to do that to stake our place as an era-defining company. Thank you.